Welcome to the Business Spotlight Series. I'm Mark McNulty, president of Action Coach Bluegrass. And today I have with me John Bennett, who is the CEO and founder of Kakou LLC. And today we're going to be talking with John about his journey to business, ownership, his challenges, best practices, and share a peek into what it's really like to build and operate your business. So if this is your first time on the channel, go ahead and like and subscribe so you get notifications for future interviews. So John, welcome and thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So give us a little bit about your background and tell us a little bit about the business.
So my interest in engineering started, at a younger age. So for example, like when I turned 12, I guess, my parents actually bought me a broken moped and, told me that if I fix it, I can ride it kind of thing. So we went and picked up a moped. I spent a few months fixing it and I actually got it to run. And of course, my mom and dad was kind of surprised. But so I always had an interest in how things work and how the machines work, how even like Nintendo worked. So when I turned 15, my very first paying job was actually working for a company that my grandpa worked at. It was actually a large foundry. And I started out working as a maintenance technician there during the summer. So I started learning more about how the machines worked. And that's kind of how I got into what I do now. When I turned 30, I decided to start the company that I have now. So back in 2009, I guess, I actually started it in my basement. My second child was coming in a couple months, and my wife kind of pushed me to do this now before if I wait too long, then it'd be too late to start, if something happened. So I started doing that. So the first few years, I probably stayed at home, 50 to 100 nights a year. I stayed on the road, being with the customer, doing all the installs. So I started from engineering, doing my own machining on parts, assembling equipment to the install at a point at the customer location. So my wife actually got a statement from a Hilton hotel one year, and it kind of tells you how many nights you stayed at a hotel per year and the points that you earned and all that. And I stayed at a hotel like 250 some nights. So it took a lot of time and effort to get this company going. It wasn't something that I was given or, handed down or something. So I started it from the very beginning. But I guess after the third year or so, I had a really good friend that I known in the same type of industry that kind of helped me do some work, also helped me kind of guide things that I had to do. When I first started, I had to do accounting, human resource, sales, engineering, just the whole thing. And at times, it gets kind of overwhelming, but at the same time, you can't really afford to pay somebody to do it. So, that's kind of how I learned what I know now. I really didn't have anybody to teach me. But one thing is my Japanese background. So I was able to meet new customers through my Japanese network on some companies. So that also helped because, when you're Japanese and when you can't really speak a lot of English, it's easier to communicate with an engineer that can speak Japanese in US. So that's how I got some work also, me going in there and understand what they're wanting to do or what they're wanting to improve. And I'll go in there and do all that work on my own. But fast forward to now, we have 2 locations. We average about 30 employees. So, I'm at the point now that I have really good people that works for me that, understand each of their task. And, I don't have to, micromanage everything. I trust them to be able to perform their task. So that took a lot of stress off of me, but of course I still have to oversee, daily operations And I'm always out trying to find new opportunities to keep the work there, not just for my family, but, also my employees, because I see my employees as my own family too. If our company fails, then 30 different families are going to get impacted the same way. So, that's part of the stress that I have to deal with every day is, not just being stressed over me having to feed my own family, but, I have to feed 30 different families. So
who are your best customers and what is it you do for them that they keep coming back to you because you're the best at it?
So we do pretty much all manufacturing companies around the United States. Our shop, since we do everything from engineering, machining, fabrication, assembly and equipment to the install. So some customer like that because you don't have to go to multiple different vendors to get one system or one parts. And our big thing is to give the customer the best quality and also, meet their lead time or deadline. So we do whatever we can to try to meet the customer needs. Our guys will stay after if they have to get caught up if we're behind. And, we're not going to ship something that we know it's not going to meet our customer standard. So that's kind of how we've been trying to keep our customer satisfied, is to try to do all the work ourselves so we can control the cost and also the lead time. Because at times, when you're subbing your work out to different vendors to do different things, it's very hard to keep a track and keep a control in cost and lead time.
Okay. What's something that you wish more people knew about your business?
Maybe our commitment to our customers. We take a pride in what we do. And like I said, we're one-stop shop. So, we can do maybe like a inch in size parts up to, 40-foot structure beam. So there's not much that we can do at our shop. So for some companies, like I said, instead of having to sub multiple work out to different vendors, maybe they can come out just to us, and that way they can also control the parts coming in instead of having to control, let's say, like 5 different vendors.
Okay. So the name of the business is a Japanese term. Is there a meaning behind that? Why you chose that name?
Yeah. So Kakou means like machining and fabrication in Japanese.
Okay.
And to be honest, like when I wrote Kakou on a piece of paper, it just looked catchy to me, and like I said, I wanted both culture in one name. Yeah, that way, like the Japanese customer, when they see it, they'll know kind of what we done. And yeah, that's where the name came from.
So early on, you said you got some mentors that helped you figure some stuff out. So what were some of the challenges you had to overcome taking this from your basement, your garage, one-man shop, doing it while you still had another job at times, to becoming a standalone growing business? What were some of the challenges of going from basement to facility?
I think the biggest struggle that I had was being able to find people that I can trust. Because, when it's your own company, that's also your own finance that you're trying to feed your own family with. So, and like I said, I take a lot of pride in what I do. I don't like to just give something that I'm not happy with. I don't look at my job as just a job. This is not just my hobby. It's not just my job. It's something that I take a pride in. So to find somebody that has the same mindset as me, that I can trust and know that they're going to give the same service that I would, I guess is the hardest part. To be honest, I think this past couple of years is first time that I actually felt happy and comfortable with who I have working with me. Some of the guys has been with me for a long time, But, one or two person can't make the company. You have to have a strong team that understand, I guess, what they're good at doing. And, that's one thing that I always told myself is if I hire somebody, I'm going to find somebody that knows more than me, not somebody that knows less than me. And that's one thing that I try to teach my guys also, like if you're going to hire somebody, always find somebody that knows more than you, that way you can also become more than what you are. And also, that will help with your workflow and, your work output. So yeah, right now we have a really good team and really good people working with us. But yeah, I think the hardest hurdle was finding people that I can trust.
Right. So, finding good people is a big topic these days, right? You can't go anywhere and talk to a business owner that doesn't have a challenge of finding really good people. So one of the keys then when you do find good people is keeping them, right? So what are some things you do to, help your employees, your team choose to stay?
That's really hard to answer maybe, but my company, like I'm not there to be a boss, I guess, like I want more of a family vibe within the company. I mean, I want them to be able to give me a call if there's an issue. It doesn't matter who it is, and try to work on any issues that might come up. So, I mean, we do have, people over certain departments and all that, but, I look at everybody within the company as an equal. So I take input from everybody. Also, one thing that we do is we try to always keep up with new technology to help, our guys with work also. Because let's say if you have a 30-year-old machining machine, I mean, of course, that machine's not going to run as fast as new machine that they have now. So, that puts more pressure on our guys doing the machining work to try to make a profit off a part. Like this month, we just invested in a new 5-axis machine with a robot to help guys, to keep up with machining capability. So, that's the kind of stuff we try to do, but mainly, take as much input as possible from the guys that works with me, and, it doesn't mean we're going to take every single input and, make that happen, but we still make time every Monday to kind of have an employee meeting and, we go over things coming up or issues that we might have. And, we try to do the best we can to make everybody feel comfortable working with us.
Okay. So you've got 2 locations. So what led to the second location? Because that can be kind of a big leap, right?
Yeah. And that's also kind of where people comes in. So our main location is in Morristown. That's where I started the business. And that's where I have most of the people working. That's where we have most of the equipment. But we had a bunch of customers around Kentucky area, our second location. And we were doing a bunch of travel going back and forth. And during that time, I met a few people that works for me now. And I really wanted them helping me out. And they were already living here in Kentucky. So I opened up a small office machining facility here to be able to make the customers happy around here also. If there's a repair work or service work that they want done or, rush part that they need, that way we can meet their needs. And some of those small jobs led to big jobs. So yeah, that's kind of why we have multiple locations.
What's been the biggest challenge of managing 2 locations?
I guess keeping both locations busy, but we kind of have it separated. Our Kentucky location's mainly service team and the sales team. So we don't really do much machining and fabrication work here. So our overhead is not very big at this location here in Lexington. And that's probably it, because I think when you have multiple locations, the biggest issue people have is maybe the overhead, but our overhead's not very big here at the Kentucky location. So it's more of a just location that we have so we can keep the customers happy that's around here, which is some of our biggest customer.
So tell me a little bit about, yeah, tell me a little bit about your management and leadership style. You have layers of management, you don't have, hundreds of employees, but 30 to 35, that's a lot of people to manage. So what's kind of your management process and management structure to help everybody feel part of that family, yet still be productive, hourly and daily?
Yeah, so that's probably the hardest part, is to managing people and time. And that's probably going to be an ongoing thing that we're always going to be working on, is to find the best structure that meets our company. Right now we have like a plant manager that's over our Morristown location. And from there, we have it separated to like machining, fabrication, to assembly, QC, in different locations. And from there, we have another, just machinist, CNC machinist, fabrication. And we're also ISO certified. So we try to meet ISO standard. So everything we do is documented. Well, it's supposed to be documented. And so we all have a certain rule that we follow. So if we get a job, let's say, our plant manager will get the purchase order and let's say like a drawing, and we have like an internal purchase order system. So that purchase order will go into team, let's say like a team leader at machining, and that person will get that started, and when that's done, it goes to QC department, and when the QC is done checking the part to make sure it meets the standard, and it gets shipped out to the customer. So every single job we have what we call a job number, and we make job number for every single job. That way we can all just go into the one location and find all the documents that we need, and that's how we keep up with jobs.
So looking ahead, what's in store for Kakou USA in the next, say, 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, so we've been doing a lot of machine building and robotics, things like that. And as you mentioned, with a labor issue, a lot of companies are using robots or AGV system, not trying to take people's work away, but trying to fill those positions that they can't fill to run the part. So we're always looking for new technology, new opportunity. And again, we're always investing in new machining equipment, fabrication equipment. So, we've been pushing a lot of machining, fabrication contract works, like the prototype work. And we also design and build what we call ASRS system. It's kind of like what you see at Amazon, how they store parts into a racking system. They type in and the robot comes and gets it and sits it in a shelf. In a battery, since all the cars are going to a battery, when they build a battery, they have to do their testing, they have to charge the battery and store the battery onto a rack system to make sure it meets their standard before it gets shipped out. So, during COVID, we saw this coming and we started pushing more on getting the system made. So we came up with our own system, and we've been selling that system here and there, and we see that also growing up. So I feel like in the next 4 or 5 years, I guess our company will keep growing, and our team will get stronger, and we can keep doing what we're doing. But to be a small business owner, like, you never know how tomorrow's gonna be. So it's not like how I was when I worked for a big company. You make a mistake and you just they just brush it off. Like, if I make a mistake now, it costs a lot to fix the mistake. So yeah.
Okay. So we've covered a lot about your business journey and just, what you built starting in your basement. For those of you, watching this, be sure to bookmark this one and come back, watch it a couple times to get the most out of your learning. So John, last couple minutes here, just a couple quick questions, and then we'll wrap us up. So what would you say has been your key to success?
Just hard work. And that's what I always tell people that wants to start a business or looking to go into their own business is you can't just sit back and watch your company grow. Like, you have to put everything you can if you want the business to succeed. And I just feel like more effort that you put in a business, more reward you'll get.
Okay. So you may have just answered this, but I'll ask it anyway. So what's one piece of advice you have for other business owners?
Just put every effort possible into what you're doing. That's not just a business. And I tell my kids all the time too, like, I don't care what you do, put your best effort in. And, you should get rewarded for your effort.
Okay. All right. So what's a book you're reading or listening to or podcast that you would recommend other business owners read or listen to?
It's been a while since I've been able to read a book, just because right now, this year, I'm going through some personal stuff. So when I get home, I try to spend as much time as possible with my kids. So, to me, being with my family, my wife and the kids has been, I guess, my book, to keep me relaxed and get my mind back to, refreshed for the next day kind of thing.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, when you got little kids, you don't have a lot of time for a lot of stuff. Little kids and a business, that keeps you pretty busy, I know. So great. So last question I have, what inspires you the most right now?
To me, what inspires me is all this new technology. Like I said, I grew up wanting to learn and understand how things work. And there's always a new technology that I don't understand how it works. So, that kind of keeps me excited and keeps me going to do what I do now, because it's always something new. I never do something same next day.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, John. So listeners, this has been John Bennett. He's the founder and CEO of Kakou USA, business he started in his basement and grew to now 2 locations with his plant in Tennessee and sales and service in Lexington. And John, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
So make sure you subscribe so that you get notifications of future interviews like this, so that we can all keep learning and build our community of business owners, all supporting each other and learning from each other. This is Coach Mark with Action Coach Bluegrass, and thanks for listening. Bye.